Right now, somewhere on this planet, two people are pressing their lips together, and neither of them has any idea why they're doing it. It feels natural, automatic even, like breathing or blinking. But here's the strange part. Nothing about kissing makes obvious sense. You're pushing your face against someone else's face, sharing spit, sharing germs, breathing each other's air. If an alien watched humans do this for the first time, they'd probably think it looked less like romance and more like a threat. So why do we do it? The answer is stranger than you think, and it starts thousands of years before anyone wrote it down. Picture this: a cave somewhere in ancient Mesopotamia, thousands of years before the pyramids were built. A fire crackles in the dark. Two people sit close together, faces lit orange by the flames. One leans in. Their lips touch. It's quiet. It's small. But something is happening inside both of their brains that neither of them could explain, because the science to explain it wouldn't exist for thousands of years. Was this the first kiss in human history? Nobody knows for sure. And that's exactly the problem historians have been wrestling with for decades. Because here's the twist. Kissing isn't universal. Not every culture on Earth does it. Some anthropologists have found tribes and communities isolated from the modern world who show affection in completely different ways. Rubbing noses, pressing foreheads together, breathing in each other's scent, but never actually touching lips. Which raises an unsettling question. If kissing were truly built into human biology, wouldn't every human on Earth do it the same way? Unless kissing isn't as ancient as we assume. Unless it wasn't always about romance at all. Some researchers believe the very first kiss on lips wasn't a moment of passion. It may have started somewhere far more surprising, somewhere involving survival, not love. And that single idea changes everything we thought we knew about where kissing came from. Because if that theory is true, then the kiss you shared with someone you love, the one that felt so personal, so human, so uniquely yours, might actually trace back to something far older than romance itself. Something buried in the earliest instincts of human parents and their children. To understand how a survival instinct turned into one of the most powerful romantic gestures in human history, you have to go back further than any love story ever written. You have to go back to the very first humans who ever touched their lips to another person's skin, long before anyone called it a kiss at all. And what archaeologists and anthropologists have uncovered about that moment will change the way you think about every kiss you've ever had. The earliest written proof of a kiss doesn't come from love poems or wedding vows. It comes from clay tablets buried in the sand of what is now modern-day India, dating back roughly 3,500 years. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe people pressing their noses together and inhaling each other's breath, a gesture some historians believe eventually evolved into what we now call kissing on the mouth. That single detail matters more than it seems, because it suggests kissing may not have started as a display of romance at all. It may have started as a way of smelling someone, of learning who they were on a biological level, long before anyone understood what biology even meant. From there, the trail moves west. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics show couples with their faces close together, though historians still debate whether these images depict lip-to-lip contact or something closer to the nose-touching seen in earlier cultures. By the time ancient Greek and Roman texts appear, kissing shows up clearly and often, but with rules attached. Romans didn't just kiss romantic partners. They kissed as greetings, as signs of respect, even as legal gestures to seal business agreements, which means for thousands of years, a kiss wasn't only about love, it was a tool, a signal, a way of saying something words couldn't fully capture. But if kissing shows up in so many separate, disconnected civilizations, all inventing something similar without ever meeting each other, that raises a bigger question. Was this something people simply invented over and over again by coincidence? Or is there something deeper written into human biology that pulls us towards this exact gesture? This is where evolutionary scientists step in with a theory that sounds strange at first, until you think about it carefully. Some researchers believe kissing may have originally evolved from a much older behavior seen in early human mothers. Long before baby food existed, some ancient parents may have chewed food for their infants and passed it mouth to mouth, a practice still observed in a small number of cultures today. That single act, lips touching lips, closeness, trust, survival, may have wired something deep into the human brain that later transformed into romantic affection between adults. Under this theory, a kiss between two people in love and the earliest moment of a parent feeding a child may share the same biological root. Other scientists point to a different theory entirely. They argue kissing developed as a way for potential partners to gather information without realizing it. When two people kiss, they're standing close enough to sense subtle chemical signals from each other's skin, breath, and saliva, signals that may have unconsciously helped early humans judge health, compatibility, or even genetic differences useful for choosing a mate. Neither theory has been proven beyond doubt, but together they suggest something remarkable. The kiss you think of as a purely emotional romantic act might actually be an ancient survival tool, disguised for thousands of years as something else entirely. And that's only the beginning, because the real transformation happens somewhere else entirely, not in ancient history, but inside the 3 pounds of tissue sitting behind your eyes right now. The moment two people's lips touch, the human brain sets off a chemical chain reaction more complicated than almost anything else the body does. And it happens in less than a second. First comes dopamine, the same chemical linked to reward and craving. It's the same neurotransmitter that spikes when you eat something delicious or win at something you care about. That rush of pleasure isn't an accident. It's your brain rewarding the behavior, quietly encouraging you to do it again. At the same time, oxytocin floods the brain. Scientists often call it the bonding hormone because it's the same chemical released when a mother holds her newborn child for the first time. When two people kiss, their brains release the exact same chemical connected to one of the strongest bonds in nature, the bond between parent and child, which means, on a chemical level, romantic connection and parental love may be running through some of the very same biological wiring. Serotonin levels shift too, affecting mood and emotional stability. And cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, tends to drop. This is part of why a kiss can feel calming, even during moments of anxiety or uncertainty. Your body isn't just reacting emotionally, it's chemically lowering its own alarm system. Neuroscientist Wendy Hill, who studies stress and biology at Lafayette College, ran an experiment examining couples before and after kissing and found measurable hormonal shifts tied to stress reduction, adding real data to what people had only described anecdotally for centuries. But the brain isn't only tracking pleasure and stress. It's also gathering information you're not consciously aware of. Researchers studying mate selection have found that kissing may allow the brain to unconsciously evaluate a partner's immune system compatibility, picking up on subtle biological signals through scent and taste. Some scientists believe this connects to something called the MHC, a set of genes involved in immune function. Under this theory, when a kiss feels wrong somehow, when the chemistry just isn't there, your brain may be quietly telling you something about biological compatibility long before you consciously understand why. Psychologists have found something else surprising. In relationships, couples who kiss more frequently, not just during romantic moments but casually, throughout everyday life, tend to report higher relationship satisfaction. It isn't only about romance in a single dramatic moment, it's about small, repeated signals of connection, building trust over time. Still, scientists are careful to point out that human bonding is complicated, and no single hormone or gene fully explains something as complex as love or attraction. The evidence is compelling, but researchers continue studying exactly how much of kissing is instinct, how much is chemistry, and how much is shaped by the culture someone grows up in. What is clear is this: a kiss is never just a kiss. It's a compressed biological event. Hormones, memory, instinct, and unconscious calculation all happening in a moment that feels effortless and simple on the surface. Which leads to the final, most surprising question of all. If kissing is this deeply wired into human biology, this old, this universal, this powerful, then what does that say about why humans fell in love with connection in the first place? Here's the discovery that changes everything. Kissing may not have started as an act of love at all. It may have started as an act of survival, a way for a mother to feed her child, a way for early humans to test whether someone was safe to trust, a way for the body to quietly scan another person's biology before the mind ever understood what attraction meant. And somewhere along the way, across thousands of years and hundreds of separate cultures, that survival tool transformed into something else entirely. It became a language, a silent way of saying things words were never built to carry. Trust, safety, desire, belonging. That's what makes this discovery so powerful. The kiss you remember most, the one that made your chest tighten or your hands shake, wasn't just an emotional moment. It was your brain running one of the oldest programs in human history, a program older than language, older than agriculture, maybe even older than the word love itself. Think about that the next time it happens. Somewhere behind that instant of pleasure and warmth, dopamine is firing exactly the way it fired for humans thousands of years ago. Oxytocin is binding you to another person the same way it once bound a mother to her newborn child. Your body is quietly gathering information you'll never consciously notice, deciding on some ancient biological level whether this person is someone worth trusting with your life. And yet, despite everything science has uncovered, mystery still remains. Researchers still don't fully agree on which theory explains the origin of kissing best: the feeding theory, the mate selection theory, or something else entirely still waiting to be discovered. Human connection, it turns out, is far too complicated to fit into one clean explanation. Maybe that's exactly what makes it beautiful. Not that scientists have solved it completely, but that after thousands of years of evolution, culture, and change, humans across the entire world still reach for the same simple gesture to say the most complicated thing there is to say. Because in the end, a kiss was never really about lips touching at all. It was about two ancient survival instincts, protection and connection, finding a way to meet in the exact same place. And every time it happens, somewhere in the modern world, right now, as you're watching this, two people are unknowingly repeating something the earliest humans on Earth may have discovered around a fire, thousands of years before either of them existed. Some things, it turns out, never really change. They just find new people to belong to.